One, two, one, two, one, two. What's going on? It's your boy Jason Mass. Jason Mass playing music here with yet another review. This time, another one of my favorite albums of all time. David Sylvian, Secrets of the Beehive, 1987. David Sylvian was the lead vocalist for uh, one-time glam band that turned into a new romantic band, even though they hate that term, new romantic band, Japan. Incredibly great band. They released 5 records. First 2 records were good records, but records 3, 4, and 5, which would have been Quiet Life, Gentleman Takes Polaroids, and Tin Drum. That's the great Japan output as far as their LPs. They broke up in 1982, and David Sylvian was the leader of that group. And he gradually kind of started going into a more, um, for lack of a better term, esoteric direction, releasing in 1984 Brilliant Trees, in 1986 Gone to Earth, and in 87 this record, Secrets of the Beehive. And while his later work, post Beehive, kind of, I liked some of it, actually loved some of it, and liked some of it. It gradually kind of lost, some of the things that I really dug about it. This, for me, was his peak solo effort right here, Secrets of the Beehive. Let's go ahead and talk about the record and then break it down track by track. When you talk about the music of David Sylvian, it's you're always gonna have to talk about this heavy, thick air of melancholy that's attached to his body of work, um, and that melancholy is, to me, greatest and in its best form on this record. Um, this album is quite possibly, in terms of mood and just feeling, maybe one of the most beautiful records I've heard. And that's saying a lot because I've heard a lot of records. But yeah, and it's something about the pacing of this record. It moves at a very deliberately slow pace, and that is to the album's benefit. And to me, this album actually outdoes Brian Eno in terms of, or Brian Eno's record, Another Green World, in terms of the pacing, and that's a big statement because Eno is all about pacing and setting a mood and really leaning into that mood. And this may be the one album and artist that may have actually beat a guy like Brian Eno at his own game. And that's a nearly impossibility, in my book. Yeah. And if you are familiar with Eno, think of the song Julie With from his 1978 album, Before Science. That is the most comparable thing that I can immediately think of that's in the same vein as this album by David Sylvian. It's This is a direction Sylvian was hinting and going with Japan during their last 3 records, and this is where everything, the culmination of that sound, it all came together on Secrets of the Beehive, and it used a lot of acoustic instrumentation, some jazz overtures, and things like that, but it doesn't lean all the way in any one direction of being, oh, this is a jazz album, or this is a folk album, or it's a very singular type of record. And to me, not enough people really know about this album. And David Sylvian, as far as his singing and his vocal tone, he has a very rich, deep, and sensuous baritone. Uh, it's one of my favorite things ever. And we'll go ahead and break this down track by track. The first track is about a minute and 20 seconds long or so, and it's entitled September. And it's the perfect introduction to an autumn day, the beginning of autumn, the end of summer. Um, Very nice piano and strings, very effective, short introduction to a record, to this record. A perfect 10, in my opinion. Then we go into another perfect 10 track entitled The Boy with the Gun. Um, this track has a very southwest kind of desert feel to it, mainly because of the get use of guitars, and it's it's a very subtle feel that brings imagery of a very brownish, dusted, deserted landscape. That's what that evokes to me when I hear "The Boy with the Gun," the music behind it. The song is about vengeance from maybe like childhood neglect and abandonment. That's kind of what I get. And the one-time child who becomes the man, you know, seeking some sort of revenge on those who may have wronged him in his childhood. I relate. Yeah. Goes to track 3 entitled Maria. This one sounds like ghosts outside of a bedroom window late at night. Not in a scary way, but in a very contemplative and calming way. Almost like guardian angels or something. That would be Maria. Um, a 9 out of 10 in my opinion. Very haunting synth parts in that track. Then we go into the perfect 10 of Orpheus. Quite possibly one of the best songs on the record, but there's a lot of best songs on this record. This one was released as a single, and it's just so beautiful and poetic, and it's just simply a whole nother world. Just perfect piece of music, perfect combination of words and music. Um, and then there's that pause that's in the middle of the track. It's just this extended pause that it's so dramatic, and it just comes back to the music re-entering the picture and just takes you to a whole nother place. It goes into this beautiful flugelhorn solo that carries it so somewhere that I wish I could always be. Perfect track. Um, then it goes into another perfect track entitled "The Devil's Own." At this point, the album goes from an autumn feel to an almost winter feel. It's a very cold sounding piano that is the sound bed for this song right here. Another perfect piece of music, in my opinion. From there, we go into the 6th track, which is entitled "When Poets Dreamed of Angels." It has a Spanish guitar. It's very effective, very nice. And it sounds like from the lyrics, the song kind of touches on domestic abuse, Next time I'll break every bone in your body, you know. But it manages to sound beautiful, in the context of the whole piece of work. 9 out of 10. From there, we go into the next track, which is entitled Mother and Child, um, driven by a slow, deep, upright bass. Probably the most jazziest track on the record, most overtly jazz influenced track on the record. Um, Nice touch with the random piano key hits. That was a nice touch. 9 out of 10 as well. The remaining 3 tracks are all perfect 10 tracks. And we get into that part of the record with track 8, Let the Happiness In. Sounds like a sepia toned, foggy seaport. A lot of shadows, moving around, or maybe just one shadow moving around. I think this may be a bit of irony on David Sylvian's part by naming this song "Let the Happiness In" because the sound of the song is so melancholy and so heavy. You know, it it borders on a certain. It's like a step away from being depressing, but it's called "Let the Happiness In," and the horn parts in this song kind of hovers over the track like fog over water. It's the imagery that comes to mind when I hear "Let the Happiness In's" perfect 10 track. That leads into Waterfront, which has a calming, eerie like strings that pushes the track along. The lyric, swollen angels point and laugh, this time your God is dead. Something as morbid as that comes across beautiful when David Sylvian says it. And there's a lot of that on this record. Things that may have been just morbid and maybe even ugly are made just painfully beautiful through David Sylvian, through the context in which David Sylvian uses these phrases. Another perfect track in my opinion. Then it ends with Forbidden Colors. And this is a track that sounds cautiously optimistic, and that's carried out in the intro synth lines, and it's followed by a very contemplative piano. Ryuichi Sakamoto is on this track from Yellow Magic Orchestra. He's been a frequent collaborator with David Sylvian dating back to the days of Japan. So, there's a longing and a sense of loss that is so heavy in this track. It's just end of the world type of romance. And that's another perfect track, and that ends the record. Now, on some editions of this record, there is another track, or it's either this track actually replaces Forbidden Colors. It's called Promise, the Code of Eurydice. That is another perfect song, another perfect 10 track. And if you like the things that are on this record, seek that track out because it's as good as everything else on this record, and in some parts even better. Yeah, I'll say it again, I don't think enough people know about this record. Maybe one of the most beautiful records I've ever heard, one of the most beautiful vocal records I've heard. David Sylvian, Secrets of the Beehive, 1987. I would give this a 9.7 out of 10. Please familiarize yourself with this record. Okay? Peace.